Happy New Year! I hope your Christmas was lovely and that your 2021 is going smoother than mine. I had COVID, so I've spent most of 2021 in isolation on my own in my room. But I got out of isolation just in time to welcome the first ever international guest on the Léim Thart Podcast. Not only is she a great musician, a great performer, but one of my personal favourites, it's Dagny. Welcome to the Léim Thart Podcast.
Thank you. I mean, that's a really rough start to a year, but I guess the good thing is that it can only go upwards from here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was so ready to say goodbye to 2020, and then I get hit with this, but I'm recovering as we go.
Yeah. And also now don't you get immune once you've had it, or at least for a period of time?
Yeah, I think for a certain amount of time. So hopefully that'll hold me over until I get vaccinated
Yeah, you
for a
could be the
while.
hugger. You could be the one who hugs everyone now because you've had it. So we have like one friend in my friendship group who's or a guy that I worked with a lot, and he's had it. So he's allowed to kind of give out a hug now and then, and
Yeah.
everyone's just like taking massive advantage. Just like, can I just get a hug, please? Because
So it's,
everyone wants to hug someone.
so it's like when you have a designated driver when you go on a night out, but it's a designated hugger.
Exactly.
Okay, and while I was preparing for this episode, I tried, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I tried getting a bit of Norwegian. So I'm going to try saying, Hei og velkommen til Léim Thart Podcast.
Raw! Wow, that's very impressive.
I thought it's only right, seeing as I'm talking to you. You're in Oslo right now?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I felt it was only right to try and learn a little bit and pay my respects as
Did
I'm
you did you
interviewing in
rehearse?
Norwegian.
Did you rehearse that a lot?
Think I did. I've definitely looked up, I think, some interview clips of you from Norwegian radio or TV so that I could try and get some of the pronunciation better, even though there isn't anywhere where you're saying that sentence, but I tried.
That's very impressive.
So it's a great pleasure to have you on the podcast, not only just to talk about your music and everything, but I'm so happy to have you on because I've been listening to you for so long. I was just telling you before we recorded how it's been 4 years since my friend Conall introduced me to the song Ultraviolet. He sent it to me pretty out of the blue, and I fell in love with it from the very, very start. And from there, listened to the EP and then seeing you at your headline shows here in Dublin, and then it's just continued on as you had singles and collaborations and albums. And it's great just to have someone that I'm such an active fan on for such a long time to interview. So
Thank
as
you.
we start, like, we're gonna start off with a little bit of just gushing over everything about you. So all the nice little sort of classic press notes I have that you're from, I'm gonna try Tromsø
Right, Tromsø, yeah.
Tromsø in Norway, and I laughed when I saw that because I actually know Tromsø because it's the name of the IKEA bed I got when I was about 10.
No.
Yeah,
IKEA had a pet called Tromsø. I did not know that.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I mean, that's very random. I mean, Tromsø is like, here's a little fun fact. So the distance between Tromsø and Oslo, which is
Hmm.
our capital and where I live now, it's pretty much the same as from Oslo to Rome in Italy. So that always says
Whoa.
something about, how far up from the north I'm actually, it's pretty far up there.
Wait, if you're saying Oslo for work and you want to go home to Tromsø, how long does it take?
I mean, it's like between an hour and 40 or 2 hours on the plane. So it's not so bad, but it's just it's a long country and it's a very different, even when COVID was happening, I always thought,
Mm.
oh yeah, but it won't get to Tromsø because nothing ever gets, that far up north because it's kind of a little place on its own. It's beautiful. But yeah, no, actually Tromsø was the first city that got it. But yeah, it's a town up in the north of Norway, and it's really it's kind of spectacular in many ways, like magical little city.
Yeah, and then you left Tromsø to pursue your music and your passion. And the first time we saw you, as we know you, was when Backbeat dropped in 2015, which was followed by the Ultraviolet EP. Any video listeners can see me holding it up right now. And then you had a few more singles after that. There was the smash hit Love You Like That. There was one of my personal favorites, Used to You. And then there was the fan favorite Bullet, or as it's known now, Hit Your Heart with Steve Aoki. All this has been streamed over 450 million times, which is great. I also remember the last time I saw you in Dublin, you had performed Bullet, as it was known, or Hit Your Heart, the time before that. And I remember I just wanted to hear it so badly. And I think I interrupted you as you were talking. I don't think you noticed, thankfully, because I just screamed, Bullet! and it just so happened that the next sentence you said was, and here's a song called Bullet.
There you go. I should bring you, of course, like an introduction man.
I can be your, like, you know, the way rappers have hype men at the side of the stage. I can just be there throwing a few ad libs over Love You Like That while you're doing it. So you'd Hit Your Heart. And then 2019 was a big year for many reasons. On an Irish level, lots and lots of people got to see you when you were opening for Picture This in the 3 Arena. Even some of my own friends who were there to see Picture This reported back to me saying that you were great. I didn't get to go to it, unfortunately, but they said it was great. And then on an international level, you were sampled or interpolated by Katy Perry on her massive smash Never Really Over, which has been played over 450 million times just on Spotify. She used Love You Like That, and that was a huge moment even for me because I was such a fan of hers before that. And throughout all this, you've had multiple tours and shows globally with lots in Ireland. You keep coming back, which is great. You had the Picture This ones in the 3 Arena. There were headliners in the Academy, the Button Factory, Independence, and then opening for the Coronas in the Royal Hospital in Kilmainham. And this is before we even talk about the album. So you've been busy.
When you say it like that, then it sounds like I've been busy. But yeah, it's been a journey, hasn't it? It's kind of fun to hear you kind of go through all of it, because it's so easy, you know, as a musician, you kind of always keep looking forward, and you're not even finished with one thing before you're already on the next thing. So it's like kind of stopping up and sometimes look back and just appreciate everything that's happened. It's been a real nice time. And even before, you know, we did Backbeat which was my first single in 2015. Even before that, you know, we were touring and playing and writing and doing all these things for probably 5 years before I even started releasing music. So it's kind of been like a brick by brick, and that's how I like it, because it means that I've been able to do all these things without feeling the pressure of having to constantly deliver. We've just been able to enjoy the ride, and yeah, I feel very fortunate, I guess.
Yeah, and we're obviously very thankful that you keep coming back to Ireland.
I
we love having you here. And your next show, as it stands, is in April in the Academy, which is one of my own favourite venues in Dublin. So it's great to see you playing in there. I know I'm looking for compliments, but why'd you keep coming back? It's only Ireland.
You're definitely allowed to. I mean, it's not difficult at all to compliment you. I think the reason why, I mean, I obviously do music out of the pure love for music, and I find that, you know, in Ireland there's a real, you are genuinely interested in music. It feels like there's a lot of culture, a lot of music, and it's very kind of imprinted in, you know, in the, how do you say it, in the kind of population, I guess. And so we've only ever really had really good experiences going there and playing, even before, you know, long before we were selling tickets anywhere else. It already felt like people were coming to our shows when we played in Dublin. So I think, you know, it's that. And then it's just, I like the people I know there and the people I've met there and the city in itself and the Guinness beer, you know, I love beer. And so it's like, it just feels like, of all the countries that I visited, it feels very kind of a little bit like coming home in some ways, going there. So it's always very, you know, on the top of the list when we decide to go on tour. It's like, where you want to go? It's like, Ireland.
Yeah, well, I can definitely tell you, I'd say probably every country in the world is the same, but for anyone in Ireland, whenever someone from like internationally pays any sort of special attention to Ireland, we just go nuts.
Yeah, yeah. I bet, yeah, it's the same, I guess. I mean, it's the same as well as a musician, I guess. Like you kind of come to a show and you're like, oh, it's so nice. We really, you kind of compliment the place, and there's the fans, and not the fans, but the audience, no matter what the situation is. But then you have those places where you go and you really feel it. Like, I love it here, and I love these shows that we're playing, and that's how Ireland is for me.
Yeah. And after all of this, you have made it. Got it right here. Got it last week. I feel like I'm hosting like a late night TV talk show, because they always like hold it up, being like, "Here with their new single." But you've got the album, Strangers Lovers. It's got this. I love the pink.
Thank you. Me too. I love
and it's out. It's out. It's out. We've been hearing about an album for so long.
I know. I can't believe it's out. I actually have, my parents have news articles from when I lived in Tromsø 12 years ago saying, yeah, my debut album is just around the corner, which I was sent in the newspaper. And obviously that was not true. It took me, took me a good 10 years to get to the point where I was ready to do an album. But, sometimes things take time, and sometimes, you just feel like you're not ready, or you don't feel like it's right. And I guess I could have put out lots of albums, just like putting songs that I've written, 12 songs on a CD and just put it out. But it felt like I wanted to have, an idea on what the record was and what the concept was and how it was going to look like and how it was going to sound like and all of these things. And it finally hit me in 2019 that, okay, it's time and I'm ready.
Yeah, it's great that I don't just like see it on my phone. I can physically hold it in my hands. I can look at it and read over everything. And it's been almost a year since Come Over was released as the first single. And I'll never forget the day, because not only as a fan who had been like hearing about the album for a long time, and now you had confirmed this was part of the album, but I remember it was released, I don't know what for, but it was a very stressful week in college, my work, everything like that. And something changed as soon as I heard that song. It was so joyful, and there was such a confidence to it as well, that I just remember on the Friday when it came out, I got off the bus, and the walk between the bus stop and college, I just felt so good and so confident, and it was just such a magical day.
That's so good, because I guess like you always aim to, or like the dream is always to make music that makes people, for me, to make people feel like that. Because I know for me, when I hear a song that I just instantly love, and I know that I'm going to be listening to the song 100 times on repeat, it's the same feeling. You just want to, you sit on the bus or you walk down the street and you put it on and you just feel like invincible. Like you just want to kind of stroll down the street and dance along, and it feels like nobody, you're kind of untouchable. And so it's amazing how music can kind of highlight or heighten certain feelings, whether it's, feeling down and you just want to have music that feels, that's explaining how you feel, or you feel down and you need a song to pick you up, or you feel really up and you just want to feel even more up, so you put on a song and it helps. And so it's really nice as a musician, I guess, to hear that's people has had that effect from song that you've released. So thank you.
Yeah.
I can totally imagine it in my head, you kind of strolling down the street like that.
Yeah, I could see it as I was walking, even though I was surrounded by concrete and cars everywhere. You just dip into another world. About a month later, you had to change your message to "You should not come over." Unfortunately. I laughed so hard when you made a Spotify playlist called "You Should Not Come Over."
Yeah, of all the times I had to release a song 3 weeks before Corona saying, "You should come over." And then the whole country, at least in Norway and probably the rest of Europe and the world, went on total lockdown. It was like, oh, that's good timing, Dagny.
And after all these years of saying there was an album and then you release it, and I remember I was on the bus home from college when the music video was premiering, and I was watching it just on my little phone screen as I was going home and everything, and then that happens. But we worked our way towards the album, and you had Somebody after that, and I didn't think you could even come close. Not that I doubted you, but I didn't think you'd be able to like get up to the same level as Come Over. But then Somebody came right at the start of summer, and I think you just timed it so perfectly because it's such a sugary, happy dance. I don't know, like a song to jump to, if
Yeah.
that's what you're into.
Yeah, I guess like for me, you obviously for this album there was a kind of a timeline in the album. You start at the beginning, and it's kind of the start of a relationship or the meet and greet of a relationship, and then you follow the relationship through till the very end. And so obviously for me, Come Over was, I remember even writing it thinking that this is the opening track on the album. And so I wanted to come with that first, but then beside that, I feel like music and season is kind of related. You hear a song and you're like, oh, that's a late autumn song, or that's a early summer song, or it's a winter song. And so Somebody definitely felt like, early summer, because you're going into a really bright time, you're going into a really joyous time, and things are feeling really optimistic. And that's kind of the vibe that I got from the song. So it felt like I needed to get it out for the summer.
Yeah, and it definitely is that. The whole vision I had in my head was there was this music festival that I went to in 2019, and it was in the countryside. It was in the middle of nowhere. There was probably about 200 people at it. Like, it was really tiny. And there was just the first night we were up dancing all night, and it's just I can hear it there. I can visualize that when I hear Somebody. And we worked our way all the way towards side A, and got time to digest into that, and then we moved all the way to side B, and finally have Strangers and Lovers. There was It's Only a Heartbreak on the way as well. Where and when in the process did you get the idea of having that kind of division of releasing it in two parts and kind of calling it Strangers, Lovers, which also works perfectly for a vinyl as well, having side A and side B?
But that was
When
also a
did you
big
get it?
part of the. So I'm glad you say that, because actually the reason why I wanted to call it side A and side B, and it was because of how you kind of flip a vinyl from side A to side B, and I think the idea of splitting the album really came at the very beginning of working on the album, because um I had 12 songs or maybe 15 songs at the time that I felt was, here are the songs that feels like the album, but it felt like very clearly two different sides of the story, or it felt like there was a very clear concept, but it felt like two different kind of angles in the story, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
so I thought, if I just put this all up in a bowl and like stir it around and serve it like that, it's not going to make sense. It felt like, by doing a side A and letting people live in that emotion for a little bit, like be happy, be joyous, be in love, all these things. And then after that, giving side B, which is more about feeling fragile and sad and still hopeful at times, but it's slightly darker. And then people can kind of live in that feeling for a little bit. It just made more sense, and it made it much easier to kind of tell the story. And again, with the season, I could release the first half in the summer and the spring, and then the second half would come in the autumn. And so it kind of just, for me, it just made the story even clearer. And it was kind of a way of telling the story, I guess. And I'm really happy. I mean, especially also with everything that happened with the COVID and these things, I'm really happy that I actually had made that decision, because it meant that I could be in this album process also for a longer time. And I mean, God knows that 2020 had its challenges. So by being in that, album process for a longer time, it also kept my mind occupied, and I got to spend a bit more time on the album. So now looking back at it, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad we did it like that for many reasons.
Yeah, and so you decided it pretty early on when you decided I'm going for the album now.
Yeah.
I'm definitely starting to work on it. Like, did much change in the studio once you decided that you were working on, say, an album for sure? We're kind of looking long term here. Did much change in terms of how you were looking at the songs, or when you were kind of producing or doing final touches on them? Did you have a different mindset at all, or were you kind of thinking, oh, this maybe we should tweak it so that it'll sound good rolling off the back of that song or flowing into the next song, or in terms of the big picture?
All of those things. Yeah. I mean, that's what I loved working with the album because, up until that point, I'd been doing a lot of singles and, you make a song and you decide, okay, we're going to release it. So then you release it and then you go back writing and you write more. And then, there's a new song and a new artwork and all that stuff. And for me, like when I decided to do the album, it was, not only was the working process very different because, I had to look at it as a whole, which means that I also could, think about how we evolve the artworks and the visual side of it. And, you listen to all these songs and you think, okay, how do they fit together? And you had to tweak different songs to make them feel like they belonged with the other songs and transitions from one song to the next. All of those things was for me really challenging and really like I learned a lot in that process because up until that point I'd been working with a lot of producers but not necessarily sitting in the studio for weeks on weeks on weeks. It'd be more like going into the studio, writing a song, going away, they work a little bit, you come back, you tweak a little bit, I leave again, but now I'll pretty much set in the studio from October to when the album was released really. and and I really loved working like that. There was a kind of a more focused and more peaceful in a way because you knew what was coming and you were able to think ahead instead of constantly feeling like you're chasing your own kind of tail, like of you're one step behind. So if it was up to me, I think from now on I'd pretty much only be doing albums. But
Yeah,
we'll
and
see.
kind of focusing on sort of one thing at
Yeah,
a time, as opposed to thinking, oh, I have this and then but I have that other song as well. But
yeah,
now the song is part of the album, so it's nearly they join up together.
exactly. Yeah, it's fun. It's like it's creatively challenging
Yeah.
in a way to work on a bigger project like that. And I really like that way of working. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you can remember, I know you wrote all these songs at different points and different times. What was the first song off this track listing that made you think this is definitely for an album? This can't, like, I wouldn't do this as a single on its own. This is an album track.
Um, I mean, I remember, what was the first song that made me think, okay, we're going into the album because now we have, a song that feels really important to the album. But I have at the end it was actually, side A was a little easier in many ways because it was very clear to me what songs needed to be on that side. I didn't feel like I was going between songs a lot. It was like, okay, these are the six and that makes perfect sense. And it's happy and it's joyous and it's all that. And then with side B, I thought it was a bit harder because it felt like I had to cut songs that was actually saying things that I would like to say, but they didn't really fit in with the rest of the songs, or maybe there was too many songs that felt too similar. Or so side B, we were kind of juggling a lot between. I mean, we ended up having 6 songs, but we were probably choosing between 8 or 9, maybe. And it was really at the very, very, very last deadline we made up that I made up my mind about what song was going on it. But like a song like "Please Look at Me" is like for me is a bit of a it's one of my one of the songs that I've actually like listened to after I released the album because you release the album and you've been working on the songs and you kind of the minute they're out I never listen to them again kind of except from when I'm playing them. But with
Yeah.
Look at Me, there's been a few times so I was like, fuck, I just really just want to hear how that felt again. And then, but I don't think that would necessarily ever be a single, but it just feels like one of those songs that I'm really happy I did an album so I could release songs like Please Look at Me and Coast to Coast, and songs that aren't necessarily like typical singles, but that I feel like they should be heard, you know.
Mm. Yeah. And I remember I like that's part of what I love about it being kind of an album as opposed to like 12 singles or something, because it kind of it forced me in a way to kind of sit and give every song a chance, so that, you know, when Come Over was released, I was listening to Come Over, trying to spot the little hidden noises, that little drum beat or the lyric or the backing vocals, and then Somebody. And then when side A came out, I remember I think I went to Paris straight away.
Huh?
And then I think I went to Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda about a month later. Still listen to it when I'm walking home from the supermarket and just kind of like be dancing to myself. And then I think onto Tension, onto Let Me Cry.
Yeah.
And then we had It's Only a Heartbreak. And I think, I'm trying to remember, I think Please Look at Me was also the first kind of song from side B when side B came out that I listened to. And I've gone into Bye Bye Baby, I've gone to Moment, and I was trying to like give them a good, thorough listen. I still have yet to properly get even through Coast to Coast, because
Yeah.
I just want to give it some time.
I
And
think I think it's important to remember as well, which is, you know, there's all these kind of in our life, or like in the way that we live, I guess, like there's all these kind of like things are very fast and things are consumed very fast and things are happening very fast and moving really fast. And I think, like, you know, a lot of people are always, you know, a lot of, like, for example, music business is all about, you know, listening to a song and immediately kind of getting it, because that's when, you know, that's when you have a hit or whatever, you know.
yeah.
But I think, you know, it's important to remember that some things take time. And that means that for me, for example, there'll be songs that I listen to and I immediately love it. But after a while, you know, I just kind of grow a little tired of them. But then there's other songs that I don't necessarily get at the beginning. But then suddenly I start getting it. And then suddenly it just becomes one of those like really long lasting uh, song relationships, whatever that you have. And you just need to give it some time. And I think that's interesting with an album, that, you know, you're kind of challenging the listener to spend some time with it and to really listen and to maybe give it a few listens. Songs that aren't necessarily the typical radio song or the typical kind of hit song, but actually can really hit you in a different way.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and an album is just a great way of sort of like slowing everything down when it's getting too fast, because as you said yourself, you can so quickly consume a song, but then when you have 12 songs thrown at you, you kind of you have to take your time to
Yeah.
do that and listen to them. And even in the last couple of weeks, I've had almost like a full circle moment that I was listening to Come Over in isolation so
Yeah.
much. And even Paris had a full circle moment again, because from now on it's going to be the song that I had stuck in my head going for my COVID test
Yeah. There you go.
as, as I was in the car.
Yeah. No, but I think, you know, and as an artist too, once you've released an album, you maybe feel like you can maybe just like breathe for a minute, or, you know, I don't feel the pressure right now, 2 3 months after, to kind of be serving up new songs already. And that's like not just because I have to write again and try and figure out what the next kind of natural step is, or, you know, what's going to excite me musically now that I've done the album, but it's also because I want people to, I don't want to be like just putting out another song and then suddenly it's all
Mm.
forgotten, the album, you know. I want people to have to live with it for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you would be preparing for the tour right now.
I
Well,
would.
hopefully you can soon enough. But even after you released the singles and like after side A as well, you have been using the newsletter throughout the year. And I went through, when I was preparing for the interview, I went and I scrolled back through my inbox, because I remember even the first one when you started telling the story of how your last maybe year and a half had been, and then getting the stories and some of the demos and artwork and stuff. The
Mm,
newsletter has been a great way. I think as a fan, I've loved getting the newsletter. It felt a bit more personal and
thank
a
you.
chance for you to like write more in detail that you can't really do on a Facebook or an Instagram caption. And it's so nice to get to read it and hear sort of more of stories behind it, and at the same time as you're trying to like dig through the song in
Yeah.
your ears.
And I'm very happy you bring up the newsletter, because for me it's been a real, I mean, I absolutely love it. It's a way of kind of talking to your listeners in a different way, and it's fun for me to, like, think about, being able to share little snippets of demos or how the story came about, and what was I gonna say? No, I completely swallowed what I was gonna say. See, but I
You're
mean,
grand.
it's Friday, but yeah, like doing the newsletters and be able to communicate in that kind of way. And in many ways, I thought, why didn't I do this 3 years ago? But it feels like with the album, things have been much clearer in my head too, because it's been very clear what I'm trying to tell, or it's been very clear what I'm it's not just a newsletter about, so guess what happened this weekend. It's like, okay, here's some things I really would like to share with you, that has to do with the album. And so it made a lot of sense for me to kind of start a newsletter now, and I'm happy you are enjoying it, because
Yeah,
yeah,
no, it's such a nice, like, personal touch in a sense to feel like you're getting spoken to directly in
yeah.
that sense. And it's the same, I think Lord does the same with
Oh,
her newsletters, especially kind of because she's one of those people, like, she does the album and then drops off the face of the earth.
yeah,
But
definitely.
every few months, she sends an email out to her mailing list and doesn't post anything like off social media, everything like that. It's email only, and it's always like a long letter. And it was the same kind of feeling when I got to read your ones and hear about the songs and everything like that. So it's great to hear the stories. And then of course when you share like demos and snippets and little, like,
Yeah.
exclusive bits, it'll always make your fans happy.
Oh, man, I need to sign up for her newsletter. That's awesome. I didn't know that she did that. I always think to myself when I make the newsletter, I'm like, wait, is this too long? Is it too short? Am I saying too much or too little? And maybe I'll get some inspiration from her newsletter too.
Yeah, well, like, I'm a fan, obviously, who loved them, but I'm not your only dedicated Irish fan. I have two friends, Conall and Gráinne,
Yeah.
who have been to the show with me before. We have tickets to your next show here in Dublin, and they so kindly have sent in some questions to ask you as part of this. So I'm gonna open it up now.
Oh, I'm excited to hear what they're asking.
Hi Dagny, my name is Gráinne. I'm a law student and a harpist, and obviously a huge fan. I was just wondering if you had ever considered any alternate career paths. Obviously the music industry is extremely difficult to get into and highly competitive. So yeah, I was just wondering if you had considered anything else.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that you had a video. I did not expect that at all. That's so nice. That's a good question. Other career paths. Okay, so this is it's one of those weird questions where, no, I guess not. I mean, I've had a lot of jobs. I've had a lot before I started releasing music. I had several other jobs, but um, I've never really found anything that I kind of love and feel as passionate about as I do with music. But then I did consider starting to study just before I released Backbeat. And I thought, you know what? I'm so done with this music business, and I'm going to go back to school and get myself a real kind of education. And I realized going through all the different educations you can do that there's a lot of exciting things you could be doing.
Mm.
So suddenly I had the problem of like, oh, there's too many things I would like to do. Uh, but I'm very happy that I didn't end up going to school, because I guess I wouldn't be sitting here right now. But I don't know. I reckon, like, I feel like the most likely thing I'll probably be doing is like nurse, or
Yeah.
like my mom is an intensive care nurse, and I think that sounds like pretty exciting. Like, um, it's also kind of it feels like something I definitely could do. And then I've thought about like journalists. Obviously, by now I have a little bit of experience being at least on the other side of being the one who's getting questioned. So I maybe I could draw a little bit of that could help me in a journalist
Yeah.
job. And then, the weird thing with me is that I only have really weird things. Like I would love to make furnitures or sew clothing or be a designer or something like that. But if I was going to think about like a more kind of normal job in
Yeah.
in whatever you call these signs, what do you call this?
We say quote unquote.
Yeah, I think I'd probably be maybe a nurse. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. And I have a question from Conall as well.
Hi, Dagny. First off, I want to thank you for this. This is a signed copy of Ultraviolet from when you came to the Academy a couple of years ago and I got sick and couldn't make it. But Rory got me the signed copy from you and a little video as well, so thank you for that. And secondly, my question to you is, if you were to collaborate with one artist that you haven't collaborated with yet, who would it be and why? Big love.
That's lovely. Yeah, so nice. I mean, I know by now I've probably said it so many times that it's starting to feel a bit creepy, but I love Robin, and so
Oh, good choice.
yeah, I probably would love to do something with Robin, and I think it'd be a really cool like yeah, like a cool kind of two female singers doing like really cool song, cool video. She's someone that I kind of look up to. So Robin would probably be my first choice. Yeah.
I can already see the video
Yeah?
in my head. Yeah.
You like Robin?
Yeah, I love a bit of Robin. She's really fun. She makes really good pop music as well, and she's an absolute like just legend in the pop genre. So
She is, and I think like it's inspiring as well to in a business where there's a lot of focus on everyone like young and fresh and all that stuff, and like she's end of her 30s and she still is equally awesome and making songs that people can still relate to at any age. And I don't know, I just think it's nice that we have someone like that who doesn't kind of who just does their own thing and they kind of stick with it, and they don't do it like unapologetically and in such a cool and like quality way, I guess.
yeah, and I love that you say that, because I think back to your story all the time about how you were 25 when you released Backbeat, and there's so much like toxic energy or a toxic attitude in the music industry that, especially for the pop genre, sometimes people say that 25 would be too old to start off, or that if you haven't started when you're 18, that's you're done or whatever. And it's, especially I do media, so a lot of people in college, so a lot of people, there's always focus on being young and stuff like that. And then I remember this artist who's successful that I still go to shows, like had the first single at 25.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely bullshit. Like, first of all, everyone has their own route and everyone has their own timeline and everyone does things in their own time. If I'd started, pushing out my music when I was 18, I might not be doing what I do today because I wasn't ready when I was 18. I didn't know what I wanted to sound like. It definitely wouldn't be the kind of music I do today. So I just think, for me, one of the most inspiring things is when I read about people that are like 55 and they decide that they're going to re-educate themselves to do a completely different job than they do, because they just realize that, hey, what I'm doing isn't making me happy and now I want to do something else, and they do it. And that's kind of what I find as well, that if I'd followed all of those advices and all of those opinions about age and all that stuff, then I probably, by the time before I released Backbeat, I would have just gone and do something else, because I felt like, oh, I can't do it now because it's too late for me. But I'm really happy I didn't listen to that, because I think the last 5 years have been incredible, and I wouldn't be without them for anything in the world. So I just, if there's anyone listening who just has a little dream in their stomach about doing something and they're a bit scared to, or they're thinking that, no, I can't do it because people say this is people say that, then just I do it.
Yeah, like fuck the age, and if it's something that you love and you work at it enough and you get better at it,
Yeah.
like the right things will happen.
And I think also, music is about feelings and about experiencing and about putting words on certain things. And I mean, I think when you're 30, you can still feel equally in love or equally heartbroken or equally excited or equally depressed or whatever it is as you can when you're, you know, 16 or 50 or 25 or 35 or 40. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Um, and so something very big that you achieved back in 2019. I know everyone asks you this, but I have to talk about the Love You Like That Never Really Over story, because I was already a huge Katy Perry fan before this, and I was a huge fan of yours before this. So then when she announced the single, obviously I was excited for it. But then as soon as I saw you say something about it, it wasn't out yet, but that you said, "Oh, great to have been a part of this," I was thinking,
Yeah.
what's happening there?
Yeah. To be honest, I probably should have come up with some really awesome story about how I met her at some fancy house in LA, and we wrote the song together and blah blah blah. But the truth is that we released, you know, Love You Like That in 2017, and then start of 2019, I think it was. We just got an email saying, so Katy Perry is releasing a song, and it's inspired, or it's inspired by Love You Like That. So we want to include you in the process. And it was like, excuse me, what? What did you just say? I didn't really believe it until I could like listen to it on my, my phone, because I just thought, you know, you hear about these stories and then 5 years later, the song still hasn't come out. So things
Yeah.
change all the time. But when I heard it the first time, I didn't really hear I didn't think it was that similar. But then obviously when you started like this, when you kind of took it apart and you listened to the different things, then I could definitely hear how it was inspired. And it was really, really fun for us to be able to be part of that, and kind of gave, you know, Love You Like That also a little bit of a new life, and people discovered Love You Like That too, which I'm really happy about, because it's a very, you know, it's a song that I feel very strongly about. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt great when I actually had the album and I
Oh,
could like open up the booklet and your name is
oh
there
my
on
God, I
on
need
the
to get
first
myself one of
page.
those. Where is
Yeah.
it? That's amazing.
That's
Yeah.
probably too small to see it, but your name is right there. And I can't, I'm that really, really annoying friend who anytime Never Really Over comes over, I just have to drop
Yeah.
that. Like, I was like, oh yeah, did you know that
Yeah.
this song is actually based on this other song?
If someone told me when I was like 14, you know, your name is gonna be on like a Katy Perry record, then I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Stop it. Yeah, it was really exciting.
I just love like seeing people's faces when I just say, "Oh yeah, this like Never Really Over is based off this song, Love You Like That," and I play it for them, and I just like you wait for the moment that their face changes when
Yeah.
the penny drops. They're like, "I hear it."
That's so cool.
Between the track and the chords and even like the harmonies, I thought were
Yeah, and the melodies, and there's even like what I found really fun when, you know, they took one of the ad libs from Love You Like That and kind of turned it into like a melody that goes into one of the choruses, and I thought, oh my God, I remember the moment when we did that ad lib, you know, and now like, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to hear kind of how, you know, how it's just a kind of completely new interpretation of a song that's already kind of there. And it's funny how you can make it so different, but still, you know, it feels so kind of similar in so many ways. I was really excited. It was fun for me to be, you know, on that side of it as well. You know, I'm normally, you know, I write music and I always release it myself, but kind of being on the other side and being part of someone else's kind of process, and you know, seeing the video for the first time, seeing the artwork for the first time, hearing it for the first time, reading people's reaction on YouTube for the first time. It was really fun to kind of be on that side of it, and still, you know, no pressure on me, just kind of enjoying seeing what people felt about it in a way.
well. That was a huge thing of 2019, and then amongst all the other things that happened in 2020, somebody won Norwegian Song of the Year, which was great. I mean, I was so happy to see that and to see it's such a gets such a recognition. And something else that you did very well recently that we found out about it, and it was definitely a great help in isolation, was your TV special with KORK.
KORK, yeah, that's
Um,
right.
and for anyone in Ireland that's listened to this, it's kind of I've looked them up, and it's the same thing for anyone in Ireland as the RTE Symphony Orchestra. You did a TV special, and it was so great to not only hear some of these songs live for the first time because you couldn't tour, but hear them in such a different way to how I was used to.
It's I mean, for us it was a big, obviously when you release music you can't wait to go out and play it and see people's reaction and play the songs for the first time, and it feels really odd to have done a record, and even now 3 months after the record is out we still have only played a lot of them songs only that one time. But then that one time was with KORK, which has been like so high up on my kind of dream wish list. Um, you know, their big thing here in Norway. They're the kind of national symphony orchestra, and so it's very rare that they do those kind of things. And it was a real special moment for me. And also, as you say, you know, hearing some of these songs in a completely different way, but also hearing some of the songs from the record, actually, you know, them playing certain parts that was played by piano in the studio or played by a guitar or something. It was really fun process.
Yeah, it was so much fun, and I was, especially because they arranged them for an orchestra. I was the first time I listened to it, I was trying to like play that like beat the intro game. I was trying to guess which song it was before you started singing or said a line.
I think that
And obviously when you get it
the hardest
when you
one
get it
was
right, it's
probably,
great.
the hardest one was probably Drink About.
I'm
Like,
trying to think what the hardest one
yeah,
was.
the I remember the intro. I remember myself actually being on that concert and they played the intro of and Drink About, and it was kind of really hard to find the first note I was meant to be singing. So I had to like be staring at the bass player, just like, what is he playing? What is he playing? Just so I could hear what my first note would be. But Drink About was definitely in a completely new version, like nothing like any version that we've done before.
For sure. And even hearing the strings play the chords from Backbeat,
Yeah.
and hearing the people on the violin do the plucks off Love You Like That at the start, it just sounded so good. And great to be hearing that coming out of Norway. And obviously you're not the only Norwegian that we love here in Ireland. There's been we don't know what the magic is, but there are so many others. We're very fond of Sigrid here. There's her, there's Kygo, there's Astrid S,
That's right.
Jesper Jenset, Julie Bergen, Girl in Red, Hannah Muan.
Wow, you know a lot of them.
Aha. I have a specific Scandi pop playlist on my on Spotify because my dad just gave me this love of all things Scandinavian as a child, so I was listening to a lot of Scandinavian pop, and I only found out today actually that Aha, who sang Take On Me, were Norwegian.
Oh really? You didn't know? Oh no, they're like, I mean, they're probably one of our, I mean, our pop music history, like I feel like it's kind of starts with Aha. Or they're the biggest thing that we have coming out of Norway. A bit like, you know, ABBA in Sweden or something like that. Yeah, it's funny because like Norway has always been a kind of a little bit behind on especially on the pop front. We always look to Sweden and think, you know, okay, they're 20 years ahead of us and they've had so many amazing pop acts. But I feel like in the recent years, you know, there's been a lot of really upbeat kind of exciting pop coming out of Norway too, which obviously for a pop girl like me who loves pop, it's great. So I listen to a lot of the other Norwegian acts too.
Yeah. And there's so many great artists in your neighboring countries. There's obviously in Sweden you got like Zara Larsson and Tove Styrke and Svea, Tove Lo, and
Veronica
in Denmark
Maggio, do you know her?
Pardon?
You have to check out a woman called Veronica Maggio.
Oh, I haven't.
I think you like it. Yeah, I'll write you the name later, but she's amazing.
Thanks. And then you've obviously got like Denmark, you've got like Mo as well, one of my favorites. What's the secret?
If only I knew. You know what? I think sometimes a little bit of that kind of cry dance thing. Norway and Sweden and Denmark, this it's always been kind of very high up on the happiest country in the world list. But then there's still this kind of like slight darkness or melancholia to it too. So when you hear a song, it feels really upbeat, but then it still touches like kind of something a bit deeper, something a bit more fragile or melancholic in you. So it's like, I think Robin is like perfect example, how you listen to a song, you just want to dance, but you kind of just want to cry as well. And I feel like a lot of Scandinavian acts do that, and they do it really well. And I think that's, then it feels like kind of upbeat, happy pop, but with like a kind of a deeper side to it, which I think resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah. And you guys definitely do it very well. Because I always go to my Scandi pop playlist when I wake up in the morning. And obviously you've plenty of songs on that. And so your huge years, 2019, 2020. I know we're still a bit unsure, but what's on your list to do in 2021?
I mean, right now I'm trying to kind of take it month by month, because obviously I was meant to be doing European tour, which I still don't really know, and then a big festival summer and a Norwegian tour, and so all of that is a little bit on hold, and it's funny because at the start of 2020 when COVID was happening, my sister said, "Oh, what if all festivals and all concerts stop?" And I said to her, "No, are you kidding me? This is going to be over in no time." And I had to eat my own words. And so I don't know. I'm just trying to think that, you always have to try and find other things to do and other ways to do things when you can't do them the way that you planned. So right now I'm just trying to spend time in the studio again and trying to write more music. And by the time we tour, then maybe, maybe I'll have second album done. I don't know. But if it was up to me, I definitely would like to just go on tour, tomorrow. So fingers crossed. And if not, then I'll just continue to make music. But I guess either way, it's going to be another musical year, like the past few years. Yeah.
I can't wait for it. And with this, your first album, holding it here, what do you hope that people will take away from it?
I just really hope that, when people listen to it, they whether, they're feeling sad, and as I said, like you can kind of listen to the music and just soak in your sadness. So if you're feeling happy, you can feel more happy, or if you're down but you need a pick me up, then I feel like a lot of my listeners kind of use my music as like a pick me up. It gives them like energy, and it gives them, some kind of excitement, and if that's my kind of position in music, and if that's my purpose, if you want, like in music, then I'm very happy with that. So I think, I just would like people to listen to it and hopefully feel something. Yeah,
that's absolutely amazing. We cannot wait to have you back here in Ireland. You're so welcome. Can't wait welcome back anytime. I'm throwing so much at you right now, but can't wait to see you live and to see you again, say hi, check up how things are going. And more music. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the chat. It was really nice.